know better. Perp on me, you can call me Chris Webber. Brand new whip with the brand new leather. And now I made plays, so they all look jealous. Oh my god, now they all look jealous. Brand new drip, hope they all got umbrellas. Y'all don't fit in, call them all Cinderellas. And I heard your last shit, dog, you can do better.
What's up everyone, China Cycling here. A quick video today. This is part 2 of the sub 6x6 series. So if you haven't watched the first part, link up here, make sure you go watch it first. But basically in the last video, I set out all the parts of the build to build this bike here behind me. Now today's video, we're going to walk through the bike, talk about did we meet the targets, did we get under 6x6, how is the bike to ride and all that stuff. So I've been riding the bike for about 2 weeks now, and I'm going to summarize my thoughts with the bike so far and all that stuff. So let's check it out.
Staying
high with the mace, tipping wine to the face. Drown hit me from the door, it's a line at the place.
So did we do it? Yeah, I think I've already given it away in the thumbnail of the video maybe, but yeah, we got to 5.955 kilos for the bike. That's with bottle cages, with Garmin mount, you know, with bar tape, but without pedals. If you insist on me giving the pedal weight, Tobias, it was 6.245 kilos with pedals. So still way under the UCI weight limit. And that's, you know, with a power meter, because they have the power meter pedals, with electronic shifting, with 2x, with fully hydraulic gears, with a big cassette on the back. You know, there's no cutting corners, no cheating. This is, you know, you could race this in a world tour race. Well, you can't because it's too light, haha. But you know, there's nothing on here stopping me from racing. And yeah, it's it's like a kilo lighter than anything any of the pros are racing. So yeah. Let's see how we did it. So firstly, I'll talk about how it rides. So the first ride of it, you know, I was making sure everything was settled in, not going too crazy and stuff. But I was surprised at just how uneventful the ride was. So on the very first ride, there's a segment that's like 4.5 kilometers long. There's a few like hills in it, but like the average gradient of the whole thing is like 0.5%. So not my forte as a lighter guy. But I thought, you know, I'd give it the beans. It was a good thing to check out the bike, because there's some uphills, there's some downhills, there's some nice tight corners and stuff. And got in the aero heads position, started putting the watts down, and yeah, like the bike feels effortless to ride. Long story short, I ended up with second place in that segment. There were 200 people on the segment or whatever. You know, crushed my personal best, but also set a power best. So you know, maybe it wasn't just the bike, but I think that was part of it as well. Like this bike, like lets you put out power effortlessly. So the whole thing, the segment took me like 7 minutes. I put a 5-minute power best in there, but also like the last 40 seconds or something, I almost set like a 40-second power best as well. So the last little bit ends with a bit of a kicker, like a steeper hill, like 70%. And one thing I noticed, so I'm still in the big ring because, you know, it's a pretty short segment or whatever, despite being 7%, but the cadence is pretty low. Every step I was taking down, the front of the bike was doing a wheelie. Like that's how light the front of this bike is. So yeah, first world problems, I know, but bike so light, it tries to do a wheelie going up the hill. After that ride, done a bunch of other rides in it. Not gone into the mountains yet, but gone through some hills and, you know, gone around some bike paths and gone around the local like loops and stuff. And yeah, like this bike is super rapid. Like the watts to speed ratio seems pretty skewed nicely. But one thing I will say is like this bike feels pretty boring. Like there's no drama from the bike. Like it's really quiet to ride. It doesn't feel overly stiff. It doesn't feel overly loose. It doesn't feel overly twitchy. It doesn't feel overly unresponsive. Like it's a super like vanilla kind of bike, which may or may not be a good thing depending on where you come from. Like you guys know me, I like my alley sprints, I like my titanium, I like my steel, I like, you know, all of these like really hardcore, like in your face visceral bikes, and this thing is like really just vanilla. The way I describe it is like this is like a Tesla Model S like plaid. Like it's super fast, but there's zero drama, you know. It's all just like, oh, am I going 100? Oh, am I going 200? Oh, I didn't realize. It's not a crazy muscle car. It's not crazy JDM. You have to rev the nuts off it. No, like this thing, it just no drama. It just goes. And one other thing I noticed about it, which I think is down to the weight, because like, you know, with sub 6 kilos, when you are going up a pretty steep climb, like it's almost like there's no bike. You almost feel like you're on an elliptical machine or something. Like it really just because the bike is so quote unquote boring and there's just no characteristics about it, you really feel like it's more just about you. And yeah, so whether that's going uphill or downhill or sprinting, you just feel like it's more about you and less about the bike. Now, if you're a fast rider, that might be a good thing. If you're a weaker rider, I don't know, maybe it's going to feel the suffering more. But for me, this bike is just really lets you feel like you. Like I say, I've still not got stupid miles on it, so I'm still like working into my first impressions, and I think it's always hard to kind of like verbally express how it feels to ride a bike, but that's the closest I can get to this right now. And then today at lunchtime, before making this video, I went to go out for another ride again and give it the beans again to like, you know, get a feel for it, and also went out to get some footage. And yeah, I got a KOM. So yeah, there's a segment with like 327 people. It's a flat segment, so you know, not my forte and not the forte of the 40mm wheels, but sure enough, yeah, managed to get a KOM. So like I say, on this bike I can get nice and aero. The avian bars are 36s, the front of the bike's pretty down, and you know, aero-ish profiles on the tubes. My power meter was out of juice, so who knows what I was doing or whatever, but yeah, got a KOM, so it's fast. Now if we kind of like go through the build piece by piece, I can talk about what I think of each component and you know, whether it's a good choice or not. We'll start from the top. The saddle, the MVMT saddle, it's been perfectly comfortable for me. Like, I ride a lot of carbon saddles, but I was a bit worried about this one because it's pretty small and it has a pretty big gap in the center, but it's been perfectly comfortable, no issues so far. I do have it slid quite far forward on the rails. Like I say, still working on my fit on this. This is the setback seat post on the Tavelo, but they do a 0 offset one. I might switch out to the 0 offset one and see how I get on with that, but in terms of the saddle, 0 complaints. The bars, now these are the Avian Canary bars. These are their super like 240 gram bars. If you are really grabbing on the bars and giving it the beans, you can feel the bars flexing. Like, now whether that's a bad thing for you or not, that's going to be personal preference. But obviously I pull on these bars a lot less than your average big sprinter or whatever. So not one for the sprinters. If you are a sprinter or if you are a heavier guy, go for the Fast Sports F1S maybe. But for me, I can feel it flexing if I'm really doing like low cadence, throwing the bike from side to side, but it's not like a bad thing. I don't think it's slowing me down at all. So yeah, I'm going to keep this bar on. I love it. It's comfortable. Obviously, you know, the relationship between strength and compliance and comfort is all related. So yeah, this is a very comfortable bar at least. Moving on to the group set, so Ultegra has been fine so far. Obviously Ultegra shifting, the derailleurs super snappy. The brakes, they took a couple of rides to bed in the beginning. Like, the lever throw is really short and felt, you know, it's hard to modulate because you've got such short a lever throw, which, you know, that's a conversation for another day. But you know, they felt well bled and everything, but like there wasn't much friction on the pads. But after a few rides, that's totally settled now. Like, this thing can stop super fast. Like I said, I've only got 140 rotors front and rear, but you know, you can lock up so easily. Really impressed with the braking so far. Better than the Dura Ace I had before, but not really apples to apples. Speaking of the shifting, so front and rear shifting, obviously I'm not using Shimano chain, I'm not using Shimano chain rings, and I'm not using Shimano cassette. But the front shifting is perfect. Once in like 20 shifts, you'll get like a really noisy shift, but like it doesn't affect how quickly it shifts or anything. Like, it'll just be really crunchy, but it shifts fine, no drop chains whatsoever. The rear also, like, out of the 12 gears, I feel like 10 of them, 11 of them are fine, absolutely perfect. There's like 1 or 2 gears, which feels like it's like the 15 tooth or the 16 tooth kind of area. That always seems to be a little slow dropping down. I don't know if it's a me thing or if I'm imagining it or whatever. Like I say, I'll get some more miles and report back, but in general, it never goes ga-ding, 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 ga-ding. Like, if it does hesitate, it's just like literally, you know, a half a rotation of the cassette before it drops down or whatever. So not a big thing, but something that's not quite as crisp as the Dura Ace cassette I was riding a few weeks back. Side brake crankset, side brake chain rings, no problem, as stiff as you want to be. The bottom bracket has also been silent. That's one thing I said earlier, this bike just rides super silent. Like, you can't even hear tire noise, you can't hear anything. Like, I swear all I can hear is like the little ball bearings rolling around in their brackets or whatever. So yeah, super nice bike in terms of quietness. And that's with the chain with like, I've still got the factory packing grease on there. I've not put proper wax on it or anything yet. So yeah, apologies for being lazy. Wheels, obviously need no introduction. The CS40/45s, super light, they're stupidly light. Especially this bike, I think its main performance benefit over other bikes that I've ridden seems to be like accelerating from like 15k an hour like up to 45k an hour or whatever. So like if you're just going like super chill and then one of you guys just tries to buck it, like this thing you can add speed so fast to catch on them. That's probably like where I've noticed the biggest difference on it. The tires, the 25s, it's great to be back on 25s. I rode 25s all the way pumped up. One mistake that did happen, my colleague Tom, he was the one who fitted the tires and the tubes for me. He didn't put the 19 gram tires in. He put like the 30 gram inner tubes in. So I've still got weight to lose on the weight that I was talking about before. So these are actually the 30 gram inner tubes, not the 19 gram inner tubes. So I can chop some more weight. There's a few other things where I can use a bit of my tiny bit of budget that's left to cut a bit more weight off it as well. So unfinished business, stay back for part 3 for that. But no, in general, like every part of the bike, no regrets. One thing I haven't fitted yet is the little satellite shifters. I need to get on that as well. I was too excited to ride it and forgot. But no, in general, like every other component of the bike is good. I'll go into more depth when I do like the final X 1,000 mile review or whatever, but so far, no regrets. So ultimately, who do I think this bike is for? As I said earlier on, I think the character, well, for a start, I think it's very fast, but I also think it's like a boring bike. But I think it's a bike that makes it a lot about you. So I think this is more skewed towards like athletes or people who want like performance on the bike and don't want to feel like they're blaming the equipment or feel like, you know, they want to have a more, you know, visceral connection between them and their performance, as opposed to always feeling like it's the equipment that's in the way. I don't know, super hard to describe, but like that's where I'm going to put this bike. Like if you want a nice bike to like enjoy the feeling of railing a descent or whatever and feeling like a bit twitchy going into the corners and stuff, like I don't think this is the bike for you, just because like I say, there's just no drama to it. Like I compare it to like, I don't know, a GT86, right? Like, so a GT86 is a fun car to drive, but it doesn't have much power and isn't very fast. Like, I'd say that's things like your Alley Sprint or whatever, you know. An Alley Sprint feels super fast, it is super stiff, it's grrr, but like, are you going that fast at the end of the day? Who knows? Whereas this is more like I say, your Tesla Model 3 or, you know, your R35 GTR. It's zero drama and it just vroom, goes. As you all know, this bike mostly built with parts off of Panda Podium. I'll put the links in the description down below. But yeah, zero regrets. I'm super proud. I'm definitely proud that we're selling this, because now that I've put it through the paces, I know it's a really fast bike, and yeah, anyone who buys it is not going to regret it for sure. If you do have any questions or comments, let me know down below and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as we can. And yeah, I'm going to keep putting kilometers on this bike. Like I said, I'm going to use it as my wheel test bike, so I've got a whole bunch of wheels to test. I'm going to test them all on this. Subscribe so you don't miss all the wheel testing stuff when that does come. And yeah, give the video a thumbs up, and yeah, China Cycling out.